Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the Evermore podcast, the Newcastle United podcast on the Evermore YouTube channel. It's Monday night. It's 10 o'clock. We're asking the same question we do every week, Mark. What's going on? How you doing, mate?
I thought you were going to do what we're going to do tonight, Pinky.
Try to take over the world. Oh, well, not just the world, mate. Maybe just Leicester City, but more on that in a minute. So, yes, there's definitely a fair bit going on there, isn't it, at the minute? So it should be.
It's opened us up now to the Lynchman coming into the comments with hello, evening, Pinky in the brain, haven't I?
Well, to be fair, the Lynchman won't be joining us because he's out for his birthday meal, isn't he? So happy birthday, Lynchman, as you might be watching this at a later stage. So happy birthday to James. Hope he has a nice night with the missus. But yeah, we've got plenty to talk about, mate. Before we get stuck in, a little bit of housekeeping. If you haven't already, please click that like and subscribe button. We'd love you to help us get over the 1,500 subscribe mark if we can before the season starts. We're not even that far away. We're only about 29 subs away. So if you're tuning in for the first time tonight and you haven't, smash the button, hit the bell, and don't miss any of the videos that we do. And yeah, we're going to get stuck in, mate. So we've got quite a bit to cover off. And before we go any further, I suppose, and just to remind everybody, we are live tonight. So please come in the comments, as always. Let us know what you think about what we're talking about. But just before we really get stuck into the nitty-gritty of Newcastle United after a busy week, there's only one place to start, really, Mark, isn't it? And that is to give massive props to the Lionesses, who beat Germany 2-1 in extra time in the Euro 2022 final to win a first major competition since '66. England have won across any platform. So massive congratulations to the girls, mate. What a brilliant game it was. I watched it as well. It was absolutely amazing, mate. What a game.
It was the fear at 1-1. It was just it's England all over, isn't it? But do you know what? Let's just roll back. And it's been a brilliant tournament. They have been incredible from the start. Really, 10 minutes in to that sort of Norway game, they looked a little bit rocky, but once they got once they found their feet, honestly, they have been just unbelievable. The ball from Kira Walsh through to Ella Toon to score that first goal, and what a goal! It was just sensational, and it deserved the big stage, and it's the biggest crowds ever for a Euro final, regardless of who was playing. It was a game that was fitting of the venue and the stage it was on, and they were brilliant. They rode their luck a little bit. Mary Epps was brilliant again in goal, and she's fast becoming my favourite player now, with her dancing on the table. And
always a keeper. Once a keeper, always a keeper, mate. Yeah.
Honestly, you've got to love a keeper, and we're all crackers, so. It's no, honestly, it was just brilliant, and they fully deserve it. They put in so much work, and it's just I think somebody said in one of the news things this morning, it's kind of vindication for where it's going, and they're still really early in this journey, aren't they? With the sort of the funding in the football and in the Super League and grassroots and everything, and it has to continue. It has to be now the launch pad for the next. The next one, the next generation of kids that want to play football. It's just brilliant. It was just, absolutely. I was properly, I tried to, I'm an emotional wreck at the best of times, and I try to hold it in. And I can't remember who it was on the screen. I think it was Leah Williamson when she'd been in, and I cracked, and I couldn't help it. And I was just like, it's nearly 41 years I've waited for England to actually win something at sort of an elite level. And I was over the moon, and to sat and watch that with a Ben as well it was special. So no, awesome stuff.
No, absolutely, mate. No, it was fantastic, and a big shout out to your Burn, who attended our first Newcastle United game as well this week, mate. The friend against Atlanta, Atalanta. I've done that so many times. We're going to get stuck into that game a little bit later on in the episode. Just a little, we'll get back to the Lionesses in a minute. Just some of the guys in the comments, even into you two trolls. Good to see you. Yeah. And we've got Kenk in the comments. Hi to you too, mate. Jimmy's back in. How you doing, mate? Cicely, got to give Cicely Toon a big shout. Finally getting around to see the live episode. Fantastic. Great to have you on. I really appreciate it. Absolutely. We've got Jody Toon for life in the comments. Evening, lads. Hope you're well. Hope you are too, buddy. And we're going to get stuck into some transfer talk. I think Trolls is bashing the comments too in a minute. But yeah, just to go back to the Lionesses to kind of finish it up, Mark. I think it's a real sliding doors moment for women's football in the country. I think we saw it with the Newcastle United women's team as well, with that amazing turnout, with Wor Flags in attendance and everything else. And the tide is turning massively, I think, for the women's game, and rightly so. They've been through a lot of shit over the years. They've had a lot of unnecessary justification of their game that they really shouldn't have had to have done. But I think it's really great to see the whole country behind the Lionesses, and obviously the future generations that will be inspired by. We've got daughters. We want to hope that they get inspired to get a ball at their feet and start kicking it as well. And a special shout out has to go out to Jill Scott, who I think is Matt Ritchie's long lost sister, who decided to call one of the Germans a fucking prick, which I thought was absolutely brilliant. So that's been clipped many times on there.
I think, to be fair, I think that was the turning point, wasn't it? Once she'd done that, I think they lost their bottle a little bit. So,
well, that's Matt Ritchie's tactics anyway. It has been for years, hasn't it? To be fair, but honestly, it was brilliant.
Do you know what though? Let's go back to Jill Scott, because obviously she's from Sunderland. And look,
we'll let her off, though, mate. We'll let her off.
Yeah, exactly. How many England players in and around the Lionesses side have either come from this area, roundabouts? Beth Mead's from Whitby, Lucy Bronze is from Carlisle. You've got Jill Scott from Sunderland. Steph Houghton was from up here. There's so many that have got links to either have played up here or were born and grew up around here, and the talent that is there, it is really showing. And it's kind of telling them, you come back to Newcastle United again, it says, look at the talent that you can tap into by having the right setup in the area, and whether that's whatever level, whether that's men's, women's football, the talent is around, and it has to be nurtured properly. So, it just goes to show what you can do. And it as well goes to show what you can do with the right manager in charge too.
Absolutely. But I think Amanda Stave's got big plans for Newcastle women's team going forward as well. So hopefully she can realise that as well. But yeah, well done to the Lionesses. We want to start with that because it's a hell of an achievement. No matter what anybody thinks about the women's game, we think it's great that they're doing really well. Some people, it's not their cup of tea. Whatever you want to do, whatever flicks your switch is cool, but for us it's a great achievement, and we just wanted to give the girls massive props. So well done. So moving on to the next category, which is massive news, breaking news. It's been going around the last couple of days. James Maddison, is he coming to Newcastle United? Mark, you have a sexy picture to pull up here just to show this wonderful bastard in the black and white. And look at that. Look how good he looks in the black and white shirt. He was a diving, cheating bastard when he was in the blue shirt at Leicester, but he's an unbelievable, brilliant talent in a black and white shirt. We've got to give a huge shout out to Toon Network on Instagram for that Photoshop. They're absolute brilliant stuff those guys do. If you haven't followed them on Instagram, they're awesome. But yeah, so a little bit about James Maddison, obviously, mate, as we knew, the bid came out. We all, I think we talked about it on either an Evermore or What's Going On, didn't we? Leicester are in a spot to bother financially. They haven't signed any players. There's talk about balancing the FFP, and there was talk about some of the prize assets being up for sale. I think Rodgers tried to pour kind of cold water on it. He said that, our bid couldn't afford 3/4 of his leg. But it's pretty clear that we're keen on the player, and it looks like the player is keen on us, Mark, as well, because we've come back with a second bid, mate. It's just, what a signing this would be. Fucking hell. I'm so excited by it.
It is a proper marquee signing, is it? Let's go back to Rodgers, though. Now, Rodgers pretty much put a hands-off sort of sign on Fofana with Chelsea sniffing around him for 60, 70, whatever million. He sort of just stopped clear of saying that for Maddison. He said that the bid isn't enough, effectively, but stopped short of saying, no, he's not for sale. So there's a window, I think, there. And I think perhaps slightly increased bid. I think we saw potentially today of up from 40 to 50 million. Yeah. Does that get the deal done? And then you throw in the other angle, which was the talk that Leicester then would be interested in taking Dubravka, or were interested in Dubravka. Is that part of the deal that could be done? Could they include him as part of cash plus player transfer?
Makes you wonder, because there was some talk about Schmeichel moving on, wasn't there? A few weeks ago, and then that went a little bit quiet. But it might be interesting if they're making inquiries about Dubravka, then that tells me maybe there is more truth in the Schmeichel rumours than potentially the first thought of. But it's an interesting one. Jimmy's just pulled up a great comment there, about Maddison. He's a top player, Take him and Paqueta, play with a false nine, perhaps. I did a rumour has a video, a bit of an update, didn't I, read on Maddison, and there is some Newcastle fans I'm a little bit perplexed about, really, that some of them don't want Maddison. It is the minority, it must be said, because most Newcastle fans are utterly fucking mental and realise what an unbelievable player this guy is. But
I don't know. So I've known you a long time, man. I think you fall into that category.
I was going to say, yeah, that's true. I'm a bit mental at times, but I think you're talking about a player here. You're talking about let's just put the cards on the table here. He is one of the best players in the Premier League on his day. Goals, contributions, assists, skill, great from set pieces, and just a proper big. Exactly, diving for penalties. Fucking hell, we don't win any penalties, mate. Get him in, we'll get loads of penalties. But like, he's such a good player. But people are obsessed with this getting Paqueta. I'm not saying you are, Jimmy, but people are obsessed about, well, let's get Paqueta in. Don't pay 50 million for Maddison. Get Paqueta. Paqueta hasn't kicked the ball in the Premier League. Just because Bruno was class doesn't mean that Paqueta would be. And I just think people need to forget about this obsession with Paqueta. And if we could sign Maddison, I mean, fucking hell, this is one of the top performers in the Premier League. 50 million be damned. I think that's a fucking snip mark myself for a player that quality. 50 million quid.
It's not a bad deal, is it? When you can say he's got Premier League pedigree, he wants to get. I think one of the reasons he's perhaps interested in the deal is because it gives him the real chance to kind of get in and around the England squad again.
Yeah, I've heard about this. Yeah, which is interesting because we all thought Southgate had a nosebleed when he came to St James's Park. But if you look now, we've got Pope, we've got Trippier, we've got Wilson. Even Dan Burn must be sniffing around the edges. You got to think about that. And then Southgate's going to be spending more time at St James's Park, isn't he, going forward? I think
he is. I mean, let's come back to obviously look at Maddison and just go over his last 4 years in the Premier League with Leicester City. 12 goals, 8 assists last season. 8 goals, 5 assists the season before. 6 goals, 3 assists the season before. 7 and 7 the season before. He's a points machine, isn't he? He's going to score your goals. He's going to create assists. I get the Paqueta thing. I really do, because I think Paqueta is a fantastic footballer. And I guess if you had the ability to bring both in, it would be an unbelievable bit of business.
Yeah.
But one or the other, I think you kind of torn to kind of go, well, you could pick and choose really at one of them. But if you almost kind of go, well, I take the experience, I take the consistency level with a performance in the league, pretty much any day. As much as I'd love to see Paqueta come and play in the Premier League, I just think Maddison at that sort of price is almost, it's too good to turn down.
Half of Jack Grealish's costs. I mean, come on, let's put that into perspective. Fucking hell. I mean, Trolls made a good comment there about the chemistry. I think you're talking about Bruno with Paqueta, and I get that, Trolls. I do, because they're friends and they've played for a long time. I'm not saying Paqueta is a bad player, but what I'm saying is, I mean, I agree with some of the guys are saying, fuck it, let's get them both. I'd love us to get them both. Christ, what a double signing that would be. But I don't think we'll get them both. I mean, if we're going to dish out 50 million quid on Maddison, I think he's the man in the midfield. We're not going to go and get a Paqueta or anybody like that, or even a Harvey Barnes. I don't think we'll get him either. I think if we get Maddison, we'll get Maddison, and that'll be that. And I think the other signing, that just to touch on that, Mark, as well, that Kenks mentioned there about Werner would be a massive addition. This talk about Werner's intensifying as well. The talk is that it's a loan deal with the view to being permanent at the end of the season. That I believe, am I right in thinking that Chelsea are going to pick up some of his wages, Mark, and we're going to pick up the rest? Is that the talk?
I think they'd have to. I can't see Newcastle paying the full 270 or whatever it is a week for his wages for a player on loan. Yes, they potentially will save a little bit in terms of it. It's another year off his contract. They're going to have to pay some sort of, I would imagine, some sort of loan deal. Also a loan fee, sorry, but the wages are the key thing. Now, if they can split it half and half, maybe that's the way to do it. But as Mark in the comments has said, I was just going to say, reported to be in advanced talks with Leipzig. So, and
you could see him going back to Leipzig. To be fair, Mark, good shout for throwing that in. He was fantastic there. I mean, don't get me wrong. We had a bit of a debate, didn't we, in the Evermore chat about whether we would take him or not. And some of the guys weren't very keen on him, didn't see the big deal about him. We were quite quick to praise his work rate, his pace, and the fact that Chelsea have got a track record of ruining strikers, that just seems to be what they do. If I was a good centre forward, I wouldn't go anywhere near Chelsea because they just set your career back God knows how long. I mean, the last player who really did anything for them up front was Diego Costa. And talk about somebody who is mental. That is clearly a man who is mental. But he was they even ruined his career after time. Do you know what I mean? So just it'd be a shame if we miss out on Vern. I really hope we've got somebody else up our sleeve. But it'd be interesting to see what happens. I think BT's mentioned something in the comment there as well. That Cornet is an interesting one. That we've talked about that as well. BT. I think Cornet has got a buyout clause of 17.5 million. Which again, we had a chat about this, Mark, when I did the Rumour Has It video. Before I did it, I said to you, shite, don't want to be shite. And then I started to think about it a bit more, and I started to look at the goals he scored for Burnley last year, and the quality of goals and his movement. And I thought to myself, actually, do you know what? He could fill in out wide or through the middle. And at 17.5 million, that's probably not a bad shout, mate, is it? If we can get that deal wrapped up.
Yeah, I think the sort of a little bit. I think the gap in sort of where they are in terms of fee was, I think Burnley want the vast majority, if not all of it, up front. Newcastle want to pay it over a longer period of time. I've just seen Maggot's comments as well.
Yeah, I was going to say. I take it he means Maddison there.
No, I think that might be a route for West Ham as well to go down and get something like that, because they are still looking to build squads, and I think there's players been linked to them that have been now linked elsewhere and look more likely to move elsewhere than go to West Ham. So it's not a bad shout to move quickly, and I think it's not desperate times because there's still a month left of the window, so it's not like we're not looking at this as it's desperate times for transfers. We're not hitting the last day of it at the end of the week. So yes, there's games to come, but you've pretty much got a completely fit squad for now. If you can bring in one or two before the end of the window to then go in for up until January, then even if they come in a week, 2 weeks time, it's still good business. And we'll remember, we're going back to, it's buying the right players at the right price, the right time. It's got to be the right type of players for Eddie Howe and for the club. So if they can make a deal with Burnley to pay at the right pace for them as well, so it's not having so much of an impact in terms of FFP and all that kind of stuff, then you maybe just wait a little bit for it.
Yeah, it's a good shout by Maggott as well. To be fair, snooze you lose. We've snoozed for years. You're right, mate. We need to be a bit quicker. I think to be fair, this loan that went through, we spoke about last week, didn't we? I think there may have been a little bit of something in there with regards to the training complex investment and the playing squad, because we knew we needed these two positions to be filled, but we're also upgrading the training squad. That's the training ground, beg your pardon. So those two probably couldn't happen in the same year. So I think this is potentially what the loan was about. I think we touched on that as well. But if you look at the two players, I think Jimmy said it as well. If you could get those two players for 90 million quid, that's great business. If you could get Maddison and Cornet into this squad, you got Maddison, who's the like you say, the marquee signing. He's the guy. I mean, can you imagine Callum Wilson's face when Maddison rocked up in training? He'd be thinking, fucking come on. How many more goals am I going to get here? Because he's only got Maxi really giving him the ball. But obviously, Bruno chips in, does a bit as well. You stick Maddison in that midfield. Imagine a midfield of Maddison, Bruno, and Joe Linton. I mean, that is fucking that's scary stuff, mate. That's one of the best midfield threes in the league. Do you know what I mean?
Even if you bring in one more and then play Maddison as one of the more forward players as well, because he is versatile, so he can play further forward. He can play in that central role as well. So it's I think this is the case of get this one done, because it would be. I can't see a better deal than that. Do you know what I mean? It gives you so much output. I mean, you consider you're talking 50, 60 million for a player that got 12 goals and 8 assists last season, as opposed to Grealish, who got 3 goals and 3 assists for Man City last season. It's ridiculous, the sort of the difference in the two players.
Absolutely, and ridiculous is Jimmy's comment as well. Superb, Jimmy. You would have thought Cornet's release clause would have been hundreds and thousands. I do like that. That's a proper dad joke out of the top drawer, mate. I really like that.
Comment of the day for that one.
Oh, absolutely. Comment of the day. Jimmy wins that hands down. So Charles is saying our whole squad isn't great. 2 or 3 injuries. Wilson, Bruno, Big Joe in trouble. I totally agree with that, Charles. We're going to touch on the games in a minute. But obviously, Mark and I went to the Friday night game with PK and Lee as well from the Evermore squad, and Lee's lad, and it was so clear that the second string is not great. The main players, with the exception of the back four, obviously we saw a lot of the back four, Mark, didn't we? But the main players, the main attacking threat players, played in the Saturday game, and it was night and day, really, wasn't it, between the two squads? The lack of quality in the second string is so self-evident, mate, isn't it? And if you can get in these players of this quality to enhance it, it has to be done, mate. You've got to move.
It is, but I think the other thing to look at, and we're going to touch on this as well in a second, was the kind of the two standouts, I think, from Friday night. I think Miggy started very, very well. And I thought for the first half hour, I mean, I described him as a wasp because he was just everywhere. I've never seen anybody move so much on a football pitch. He gets into everything. He is constantly on the lookout. That was the other thing. There was the potential that Cornet deal was going to be more expensive, but split over a longer period.
I would walk away from that. He's not worth 24 million quid. Long as I got a hole in my arse, no chance. Sorry, Mark, you were saying about the key performance. Miggy was like a wasp at a picnic. You're right, but he was everywhere.
So sort of for the first half an hour, I thought he was excellent. For the rest of the game, though, the absolute standout, and I know it's been given already, and the great segue into it was Elliot Anderson. He was
absolutely
superb.
He was phenomenal. He was brilliant.
Yeah, he was, again, as I mentioned with Miggy earlier, he was into everything. He was the one that drove the team on. He found space. He beat players. His passing was good. Unlike Murphy's, which was absolutely dreadful.
Jesus Christ.
And he was unlucky. He had a good shot save, and it was a brilliant performance, and against a team that are no mugs, and he made their midfield look very average. Yes, they were quite quiet, and I think they were really just playing for fitness and things. It got a little bit edgy at times, but he was standout. He was head and shoulders the best player on the field.
Absolutely. And Charles is in the comments there saying he hopes Anderson stays and gets some game time. I mean, Eddie Howe has turned around and said that at the minute, he's staying with the squad because of the way he's playing. But this Maddison deal could change Anderson's situation, I do think, because if we're able to sign a player of that quality, he's a first-team starter for me, Maddison, straight in the team. It really is. If you're going to spend 50 million quid on James Maddison in a black and white shirt, he's not there to be in the bench for a 19-year-old lad. No offense to Anderson, how good as he was. Maddison goes straight into the team. So then you start to look at the rest of the squad and you say, weird enough, me and PK were talking about this in the game. Is Anderson better than Sean Longstaff? Is he better than Joe Willock? Is he better than Jacob Murphy? In my opinion, fuck yes, he's better than Jacob Murphy. I've never seen a more brainless footballer in my life than Jacob Murphy. Honestly, I feel like sending him down a yellow brick road to Oz to get a fucking brain. He was dreadful. He can't think as a footballer. He's got loads of pace and loads of endeavour, but he cannot think as a footballer. He cannot pick a right pass. He cannot shoot properly. He cannot cross properly. Everything he does is by fluke. Anything that goes to somebody's by utter fluke. And just he shouldn't be anywhere near our squad. So then that throws open the argument again is, do you keep Anderson because he doesn't take up a squad place? He's clearly got ability. He looks like he's filled out a bit over the summer. I think the loan deal really helped him develop, as you said, Mark. We watched him in that game. He didn't look like a 19-year-old kid playing his first game at St. James's Park. No. He looked better than Sean Longstaff. He looked like he belonged on that pitch. He's got everything that you want. He's got skill. He's got quick feet. His movement off the ball. He's running at the box and everything. He just looked a hell of a player. And I would be sad to see him go out on loan. But again, you've got to think what's best for the lad's development, mate, haven't you? So if we sign Maddison, I think he goes. If we don't, he stays. Do you think it's as cut and thrust as that, mate? Or
I'm not so sure, because he showed on Friday that he can play in that more central role at times. Now, he gives you the option to play wider. He gives you the option to play through the middle, like Maddison. So you can interchange them a little bit more. Now, does that mean that Miggy loses game time, which is a possibility in that regards? Does ASM lose game time? Is he look to be moved on? Because there were rumours that he would potentially be looked to move on as well. Yeah, totally agree with Murphy. There was a moment a couple of little, flicks that he did on Friday that looked very good. But then he went to play the ball back to, was it Longstaff? And he overhit a 5-yard pass by about 10 yards.
Oh,
and
honestly,
it was the worst pass I think I've ever seen. It was he had no pressure on him. There was nobody covering Longstaff. It was shocking. It was one of the worst passes I've ever seen. It was so bad. Even my daughter, who, bear in mind, this is the second football game she's ever been to. She's not really played. She still refers to things as good kicks. So we're getting there with her. Even she went, oh, and that was the. I just went, yeah. It was. I mean, there was the audible groan around the ground every time he got the ball. It was just he's just not good enough.
He's just shit. And Jimmy says there, I'm obviously not hiding my feelings very well about Murphy. It's quite funny because we were in a Milburn stand, and even though a lot of the Milburn regulars weren't there, it was still relatively quiet. And just when the moans and groans died down, you could just hear me going, God, he's shit. God, he's shit. Like repeatedly, like going again. And I should have been in the Gallagher end really, because nobody was agreeing with me. If I'd been in the Gallagher at the Leaders, I would have had a chorus of people cheering me on, I think. But Trolls is saying, why say ASM before Fraser and Murphy makes no sense? I get it. I think ASM probably will get this season, I think, even if we sign Maddison. I mean, one thing people have talked about is if you put Maddison out wide, you put Maddison on the left and you move ASM over to the right. Now, would that work? I don't know. It might give ASM a bit of a refresh. Possibly. I mean, he likes Maddison, as we all saw in the video that he did, his Instagram video when he said he likes Maddison 4 whatever he says. But it could be interesting to see what happens there. But if we did sign Maddison, Mark, just to go back to that, where do you see Maddison playing? Do you see him playing in a front three like that, or do you see him in a 3-man midfield with Joe Linton and Bruno?
Genuinely, I don't, because he does give the option to do both, and I think he's got to be, if you're going to play him as a central player, he has to be the most forward of those players, doesn't he? He's going to be the one that's the intricate piece of creating stuff as you go forward. Now, that is going to mean that either Joe or Bruno drops deeper in that sort of that deeper role. I do think his better position is playing more forward, because he is a goal threat. You want him to be in and around the box. You want him cutting in to get into those areas, like he did against Newcastle, where he gets into the box and
loves a goal. He loves a goal against us.
Exactly. So, and he loves to get in and around that area. He just causes havoc in that regards, whether it's passing or whether it's creating tackles coming in on him and things. So I do think playing him further forward is the better option. So it's then a case of which of the forward players does he then remove? Do you play him on the left and he comes in from that side and switch ASM across to the other side, which he's comfortable at doing? So at West Ham start of last season, where he puts that, he dances on that right-hand side before putting the ball in for Wilson's goal. So he's perfectly capable of that. I love ASM from the left because I think he's great running past and cutting in from that.
Cutting inside like he does, yeah.
Exactly. So, but I think you've got the ability to interchange those two. And I think that's probably what you would do with him. And that leaves that third midfield spot open. And then, like I say, that gives the potential for Anderson then to fill in that role as well.
Absolutely. I love that comment from Mark. I had to pull that up. My neighbours asked who Jacob Murphy is because I'm always screaming at the useless fucker. Just tell him, Mark, he's the guy who's about to put your window out from the latest shot he's took at the Gallagher end that's probably flown over the bar. That's probably what he's going to be. He's fucking dreadful. I mean, lovely lad, man. Seems like a lovely guy who gets interviewed and stuff. He's a Newcastle fan and all that stuff. But we've had this conversation so many times, man. Sentimental values and that. We're talking about Elliot Anderson, and yes, he's a local lad, and that's great and all that, but the lad's a player. He's a quality player. You can see that in his game. He showed more than 5-10 minute flashes this pre-season than Murphy's shown his entire time at the club. He really did. I look at Elliot Anderson, and to be fair, Matty Longstaff came on a couple of times. I'm a huge fan of Matty, and I feel really sad for the lad, what's happened, with the whole Bruce scenario and not capitalising on that like early promise that Matty had, you know what I mean? But I think with Anderson, you can just see he's got something, hasn't he? There's just something there, whether it be the goal he set up against Gateshead in the first game, whether it be that quick feet that he got the penalty against Burnley, even at Benfica, little give and goes with ASN and bollocking him for not passing the ball back, and then Friday night, like you say, it's his home debut at St James's Park. Never mind the fact, it's a friendly. There was 87,000 fans over 2 nights at St James's Park, which is just incredible, really. So the Friday night game that Elliot starred in, it was 47,000 there, so wasn't it, mate? 40,000 there. So I think, like, for me, this lad is capable of stepping up and doing it in the Premier League. He doesn't take up a squad place. Eddie Howe's already made noises about it. Now, maybe this was before the Maddison thing caught on a little bit, but it would be a shame for Anderson to go, Mark, wouldn't it? Because I just think he adds something to the squad that the others don't, as the guys have pointed out in the comments. Your Murphys, even your Willocks and your Longstaffs. Anderson offers you something a bit different, doesn't he, than all those players?
Yeah, he does, and I think even if you bring somebody in like Maddison to have him learn from him as well, you want him around those players. You want him to grow into that side and not go and then play somewhere else where he's going to play a different system with a different manager, training in a different way. I think now he's shown what he can do. You keep him around the squad and you build to him becoming an integral part of that first team.
Absolutely. I've got to put up these comments. There's some belters here. So Trolls calls him Goalpost Murphy. And then Jimmy smashed another belter in there. Murphy should join the Royal Mail because he's always hitting the post. I absolutely love that, mate. That's a fantastic comment. Jimmy's on fire tonight. I don't know what you've been drinking, Jimmy. Pour me a glass, mate. Superb. Keng's come up with a comment there as well, which is a really good point. And I need to bring this up. And it's probably a good segue as well, actually, to talk about the games, Mark, that have been playing over the last couple of nights. But Murphy's not good enough, as he says. We've got bigger problems, which is Chris Wood. Obviously, Chris Wood played on the Friday night, so might as well finish up on the friendlies here. So Chris Wood played on the Friday night, and we watched him, mate. We had a good view from the Millburn. We were watching him. Short of scoring the penalty again, mate, I thought he was shite. Absolutely shite. And his touch is crap. His movement's awful. He slows the play down. He doesn't seem to do what we signed him to do. He doesn't seem to score headers when he gets in positions. He seems to fluff them. He fluffs easy chances. I think PK said, is he just playing with no confidence? And I said, I just don't think he's that good of a footballer, PK. I said, I just don't think he's a good Premier League striker. I mean, have Burnley had our pants down here on this deal, mate? Or is he just going through a rough patch or what?
It's tough because he does score goals in situations, and he's done it for Burnley. He's done it for New Zealand. There's a striker there at a certain level, and that's way below where you are now.
Way below where we want to be. Absolutely, yeah.
Exactly. What got me was the number of times he gets caught under the ball when the ball's crossed in. He doesn't read the crosses very well. Now, whether that's a case of the crosses aren't particularly good, and some of them were coming from Murphy, so that probably tells a story in itself. But it wasn't just then. I've seen it before where he just doesn't seem to read or make his run good, well enough to time it for his leap, and he always seems to be underneath. Now, for such a big lad, you should be dominating in that box, and it just doesn't seem to do it. His hold-up play was awful. His touch was shocking. Yeah. I think he did one sort of bit of hold-up play, but it was very, very sort of down the left-hand side early in the game where somebody played a ball into one of the channels. And I mean, for God's sake, I nearly fell off my chair in the fact he actually made it to the ball in the first case. But he held it well at that point. But everything else seemed to... I mean, wood by nature, the ball was hitting him and just bouncing off him. It wasn't fun to watch at times. That was for sure.
It was shite. As Maggot says right there in the comment, the big lad needs to hold the ball up, but he can't because he's shite. Doesn't press either, doesn't move. For passes, absolutely finished. And I think Trolls has mentioned a good point there as well. He's 31, so he's not going to get any better. Do you know what I mean? And it is massively depressing, mate. I just think that he was a panic buy, really. As when Wilson got the injury or the injury resurfaced, we were pretty much screwed. I don't think there was anywhere else to go. And I think you mentioned this a few times, mate. There was more a case of weakening Burnley by signing Chris Wood, their main goal threat, than it was actually enhancing Newcastle United. And I think Eddie Howe must have thought, he could do the job, that everything that we've just said there, hold the ball up, bring people into play, bring in the likes of ASM and Miggy and, Bruno and all these guys. But he just, the game seems to just move too fast for him. He doesn't seem to be able to keep up with the speed of the play. And I don't know whether this is because, but you say that at Burnley, he had decent players. He had, Cornet was there when he was there, wasn't he? He had, he had Dwight McNeil when Dwight McNeil was on good form. He's had all right players at Burnley with him. And I just don't get how he suddenly becomes so crap. I just don't get it.
He did. I think at Burnley, he showed that he could do some of those things, but Burnley play at a lot slower pace. They're not built with the same level of quality that he came into at Newcastle at that time. Just remember that. I think had he come in, God forbid, had he come in under Bruce, it might have suited him a little bit better.
Probably would have
because
done,
the football was slower. It wasn't as high intensity. Wasn't going to be asked to do quite as much, and it would have been lump a lot of balls into the box for him. I think coming in under Howe, it's a totally different style of football when you throw in the speed of St. Maximin, the speed of Miggy, the quick passing of Bruno, all of that coming into play doesn't suit his game. So he's just not able to do the same job. And I just think at that point, we come back to the decision of a panic buy. Yes, I think it was a bit of panic buy, but also a bit of panic buy that said, okay, well, we can get a striker in that's going to fill a hole, but also weaken one of our biggest rivals at that point in time. And they ended up not being a big rival in the end.
Which is what Emma's saying in the comments there, right. just to disable, to completely nullify Burnley, wasn't it, really?
Exactly. And it took away their biggest goal threat that they've had over recent seasons in the Premier League. So I think there was a good deal of that in that signing.
Absolutely. But I suppose back to the positive side, great comment there from Toon Leroy, even to you, mate. Anderson's got more ability, guts and determination than the Longstaffs and Murphy put together. He's not a trier, he's a doer. I totally agree with that. I mean, just going back to young Billy the Kid, he was such a breath of fresh air in a pretty drab game market, must be said. I mean, unbelievable attendance, as we rightly said. 87,000 over 2 preseason friendlies. I mean, even the players couldn't believe it. Botman couldn't believe it. He was getting interviewed after the game, and he was saying, "I don't know many clubs in the world where you'd have 40-odd thousand rock up for a preseason game. It just doesn't happen. So even he's starting to fall in love with with this crazy fan base that he's about to play week in, week out for. But I just think, as Leroy's saying there, the lad just seems to have something about him. And I don't want to sound like I'm being hysterical here, but you see the likes of when Gerrard come through and guys like that. And when they're young, they're not scared. They say, give me the ball. They make the run. They scream at the pros and they go, give it to me. And Elliot seems to have that in him, doesn't he? And massive credit's got to be due as well to Joey Barton, as much as he's a complete mentalist. The loan deal, great loan deal, and fair play to Shola for making that happen as well. By the way, he gets a lot of shit, Shola, for the loans, but that was a great loan deal, and Elliot's really benefited from being around like a bunch of kind of was it League 2, League 1 men, getting kicked left, right, and centre by players who are just wanting to snap them in too. And he's come back a tougher player, I think, mentally and physically, mate, hasn't he?
Yeah, you touched on that. You want a young player that's not going to show any fear when they come into the first team to be able to shout and bark at some of the senior pros when they do things wrong or when he wants them to do something. Gerrard, Rooney was a great example of that. Coming to a side
18 years old, he was bollocking Ryan Giggs and stuff, wasn't he? Didn't give a shit, did he?
Exactly. Yeah. But when he was at Everton, when he was younger, he would demand perfection from players. And he wasn't the finished article by any stretch of the imagination, but he had that confidence to know, I know you're doing it wrong. I'm going to give you a bollock. And even though I am very much the junior on this side, and to see him in preseason friendlies dishing it out to some of the more established players in that squad is a good thing to see, because it shows that he is playing with so much confidence and no fear of what he's getting involved in. So I think we'll go back and just say, yeah, he absolutely should be staying at the club. He should be in the first team setup. No doubt about that. And he's got to be knocking on the door for a start on Saturday now. Really, that would be me. I'd have him in my team. I'm jumping the gun because I know we're going to talk about this on Wednesday. But definitely, he would be in my starting lineup.
Yeah, do you know, there's a lot of shout for that, and I can totally understand that because I think he's impressed so much in this preseason. But moving on to the Saturday game, obviously we played against Atletico Bilbao, really good team. We made a joke about everyone we're playing against seemed to finish 8th in their respective league, didn't there? It was like the magic 8, the crazy 8 from Kill Bill. So we played against Bilbao, and the team that started that game was more in terms of the attacking starting lineup, as we said. Callum Wilson played. Maxi played, Bruno played, Joe played, and the goals. I mean, the first goal, we tweeted it out. We had loads of interactions from the page. If you haven't already, guys, follow us at evermore_NUFC. Wilson's goal, mate. How well did he take it? The movement, the feet. Great play by Maxi as well. It must be said beforehand, but that finish was just Callum Wilson at his best, mate. And if we can keep that player fit for the majority of the season, mate, you'll be huge for Newcastle this coming campaign.
Yeah, absolutely. Was it Richie as well that played the ball to him?
He did.
It was a very good take and then play him in. It was great, quick feet from Wilson to make the space to give him the opportunity to score. And Wilson did what Wilson does, and he finishes very well. If you can keep him fit, he's 20 goals plus.
Oh, it has to be, man. Gotta be.
With the players in around him now, that should be a target now for him to hit 20 goals. He's that good of a striker. We need to see him stay fit.
That's a big thing. The one thing I was disappointed at, to be fair, over the couple of games was that we didn't see, because there were some young uns on the bench. I mean, Matty aside, I think Matty's time's probably done, to be fair. But I would have liked to have seen, Dylan Stevenson get a bit more of a sniff, in terms of a striking berth, especially on Friday when Wood was stinking out St James's Park. I would like to have seen what a younger mobile striker could have done, with a Mickey and an Anderson buzzing around him. I would have quite liked to have seen that. You know what I mean? So that was disappointing. But then Eddie Howe, being Eddie Howe, he's such a bloody charismatic, intelligent bloke when he gets interviewed. You can't hate him, can you? Even if you're not happy with what he's done. And he kind of turned around and said, the players have got to try and get 90 minutes in the legs at this stage of pre-season because we're around the corner from the league start. And I thought, well, actually, when he said that, kind of makes sense a little bit, you know what I mean? But yeah, it's an interesting one. I mean, obviously we're going to get stuck in on Wednesday about who's going to potentially start, but just going back to that game on Saturday, another player who caught the eye, mate, was Sven Botman. I mean, how composed does he look, man? His movement, his reading the game, his passing ability, man. Just he's straight in the starting lineup on Saturday, mate. He's got to be, isn't he? The Botman.
He does ooze class, doesn't he? And I think he's exactly that player that you want him to come in and be a calm and composed ball playing defender to play on that other side. It's funny because I thought at times Dan Burn was excellent on Friday.
He was, yeah.
Given his dues, I thought they contained Atalanta really, really well. They weren't dragged out of position. They weren't, they read the game. His passing was good. He put in vital, tackles and things all at the right times. And I thought there was a moment against Benfica before where he was totally caught out for the third goal. And I just thought, was that the moment that kind of sealed the sort of fate of not being a starter? But I think he picked that up again on Friday and really put down the mark. And I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Does Eddie change it? Does he still go with Shaw and Burn as the two centre backs because he knows what he's getting to start with, and just to see how it goes? Or it's I mean, Botman is a step up. He's a massive upgrade.
He's class, yeah, he is
on every every centre back at the club, and he will be the superstar in that back line for years to come.
Yeah, I mean, Shaw gets injured as well, to be fair. You got to remember that. He gets injured a lot, Shaw, and he likes to pick up suspensions as well. So, there'll definitely be a bit of movement, I think, in the back too. But we're going to get stuck in it definitely on Wednesday as well. Great comment from Emma here. Got to pull this up. Sesko looks unbelievable, doesn't he? I mean, every time the lad seems to do something, though, the fee seems to go up, Emma, doesn't it? Every time it started off at like 45, it was 50, it was 55. I'm sure I heard 60 the other day, and somebody said they think he's going to be the next Haaland, who, by the way, all these melts who are saying he's shite after that Community Shield give you a fucking header wobble, man. That guy's going to tear up the Premier League. Look at his movement in that game. I don't know why he decided to take the goal out of the ground when he hit the bar, by the way. But anyway, never mind that. But Sesko just looks like he just looks amazing, doesn't he? It's just, I mean, as Emma rightly says there, that friendly, Emma, you're right. He took the piss out of Liverpool. He really did. And I mean, that's a player I'd love to have. But if 50 million's getting spent on Maddison, Mark, again, going back, we're not going to get this kid as well, are we?
I don't think you'd look at both. You're talking about the fee going up every time something happened. Another club was linked to him. I mean, I think
Manchester United was sniffing with him as well. If Ronaldo goes off,
there's half the continent been linked to him too. Obviously, I think Dortmund was one that was heavily linked for him to follow that path of Haaland as well, to go from Salzburg to Germany, and then who knows? I mean, it'd probably be a good path for him to take, but I think if they're really sort of keen on the fact that they want a big fee, they really missed out on that previously. So I think that would be the sticking point there. He's a sensational young striker, and I think he's as Emma says there, he's going to be an absolute superstar.
He's going to be. I think he'll be better than Ekitike. I really do. Just from what I've seen, I just think he'll be. I think he'll be absolutely incredible. That's a good shout as well, Maggie. I thought Alvarez looked brilliant when he come on for City. I thought he was very, very lively.
He's a player.
He's going to cause people some real problems. But don't worry, because we'll have Maddison by then, and he loves a goal against City. So don't worry about that, mate. We'll be fine when we play them early on in the season. But yeah, it's I suppose going back into where we are, mate. We're going to get more into this on Wednesday. But I mean, the pre-season run, by and large, was actually pretty good, I think, for the club. I think the games against Benfica in particular, because that was a real hard slog that against a proper team. We only now really got beat there. We beat Atalanta, get it right this time, and we beat Atletico Bilbao over two.
Athletic Bilbao.
Athletic Bilbao.
Not the stop when you've got one right and one wrong.
I know, fucking hell. I'll get it right in the end, mate. But we beat two really good teams back to back there. Tried and tested in the top European leagues. With good players, and we beat them fairly comfortably as well. Do you know what I mean? So we've got to be feeling good, mate, going into the game on Saturday. We've got to be feeling fresh, and if we add to the squad as well, which we've just been talking about earlier, fucking hell, Newcastle could be looking at a good season.
Yeah, I mean, it's confidence now, isn't it? You're going into this season full of it. You've such a good end to last season. There have been improvements. We see the direction that the club is going. It's gone are the days where you come into a season wondering what position just above relegation you're going to finish. It's now a case of, well, where can Newcastle get to? Where can they finish in that top half? And the signs are there for a really good season. Like I say, going into this, it's just the players' bags full of confidence. I don't think there's any massive need to suddenly shake things up. You've got a relatively straightforward game to start with. That's probably harsh on Forest given the number of players they've got, but you would far rather play somebody like that first up than get City. So and I think Forest have done very well in the transfer business, but they're all new players coming into a squad, and it'll take time for that to sort of gel and settle down. So
absolutely,
with a settled squad at Newcastle, you're looking at a positive start to the season. I don't think there's any way to look anywhere else than that.
Got to be. I mean, the first three games. I mean, we've got Forest at home, which is you got to be targeting 3 points. Brighton away. Where we did a Premier League predictor piece to remark that you're going to get on the website in the next few days, and I predicted I think the Potter bubble will burst for Brighton this season. I think Brighton will have a tough season. I think they'll struggle. I think they'll be kind of in and around the I wouldn't say the relegation fight. They'll pull away, I think, towards the end, but I think they'll be in and amongst the relegation fight, maybe up until after Christmas, and then they'll slightly pull away. But I don't think they'll be anything near what they were last season. I really don't. So I would be targeting really 6 points in them first 2 games, and you got City at home, which is a real litmus test as to where you are with your new players. Your Botmans, your Bruno having a full season and pre-season with maybe if Maddison's in as well. I mean, Wilson fully fit, firing, ASM up for it. We'll beat the likes of City before us in James Park. If we're conference is high, mate, then fucking hell, why not? What a start of the season that would be. So.
Yeah, I think City last season as well started quite slowly too. So there's the potential for them to take a few games to really start firing. So it's all good things. I think 6 points to start with, and then anything else from the City game is then a massive bonus anyway, and then you just take it from there. I think that's Absolutely. Exactly what you've got to be aiming for.
There's a good comment from BT, actually, just going back to the Elliot Anderson talk a little bit. We've had a lot of talk about Anderson there in the comments as well, guys. Love that. The chin wags you're having with each other there. It's great. Me and Mark pull him up now and again. But yeah, BT's got a good point there about, having the kind of 7 on the bench. You allowed 5 subs. Jurgen Klopp still won't be happy. He'll want like 25 subs because he's a whinging twat. But I think this could potentially, again, make Anderson be a player to stick around, isn't it? Because when you've got 5 subs you can make, and if the lad can play in 2 or 3 positions, regardless if you've got, say Maddison, ASM, Miggy on form, even Fraser on form, if you've got a player like Anderson who's got that talent and can obviously impact the game for you, then why not keep him around, mate?
Yeah, absolutely. I think excuse me. I think when you limit it to 3, I think it's more difficult for them to get game time in that regard. But I think with 5, it definitely gives you the option. Emma's exactly right. I think it does massively benefit the team with bigger squads. Newcastle aren't there yet.
City's, Liverpool's, guys like that.
Jesus, it's unbelievable the depth that they've got. But even at Newcastle, when you look and you think, well, you've got the ability to bring on a Willock, bring on a Fraser, an Anderson, and really change things up. So although there's not quite the depth, there are still players there that can make a difference and really give you something a little bit different to what's on the pitch already. So it might not be a squad like City yet, but there is still the potential to have somebody like that, because there's more subs available, give you something off the bench.
That could be a bit of breaking news there. Jimmy's just pulled up the Chelsea bid 50 million for is it Cucurella? Is that the left back from Brighton, isn't it? The one with the
City were rumored to be. Yeah, City were rumored to be the ones that would get him. So because I think they really wanted it. Obviously, with Zinchenko moving on, not particularly playing Cancelo at left back, because I think he's better suited at right back, obviously.
Yeah.
So they were after sort of a left back to really cement that place from. So interesting. I mean, Chelsea are making some moves, aren't they? And I mean, they've already taken Sterling, so it's two nuances that I think City will miss Sterling.
Yeah, he's right. Yeah, in the comments there, and Jesus possibly. It's interesting with Haaland, because I think we were talking about this as well, weren't we, the weekend? I was dead keen to see how Haaland played, obviously, because I'm a big fan of the lad. But you could see City were really struggling to remember he was there. They were hanging on the ball too much, a little bit, weren't they? Whereas I think De Bruyne tried to hit one early on and didn't quite get there. But the rest of them were too busy playing like they did last season. And I think Haaland made about 3 or 4 really good runs, didn't he? And you were like, nobody's passing the ball to the guy. But I think that'll come in time, though. I think Pep Guardiola is such a good manager as well that he'll identify that in training straight away. You know what I mean? And he'll get stuck into that. Have a good night, trolls. Thanks for joining us, buddy. Sweet dreams, mate. Yeah, top man. He's a top man. Bless him. We're about to wrap up anyway, mate. So he's just got a bit too soon. But yeah, so I still think that City will sort that out, and I think Haaland will smash in loads of goals. Nunez looked good and all for Liverpool, didn't he, when he come on? Good header, good bit of instinct play. Not sure why he was crying his eyes out over winning the Community Shield. Maybe he thought that was the league. He might just thought it was one game to win the league. Possibly, I'm not entirely sure, but well, one thing's for sure, I think it will be a good Premier League season, and there's going to be a lot of goal scorers going for that, for that top scorer chart. But going back to Newcastle, mate, being as selfish as we can be, we just got to hope that Callum Wilson's fit enough to have a good shout at that, mate, because that goal he scored on Saturday, again, it just reminds you of how good he is, man. And we just need him to stay fit. But we need that backup striker, Mark, don't we? So he can have 2 or 3 games out, can't he? As rather than playing too much.
Well, just limiting his minutes. If he plays 65 minutes and has got you a couple of goals and won you the game, bring him off, rest him,
absolutely.
keep him fresh for other games. You need that backup. You need somebody to give him that break. You talking about Haaland before? I think City will take a little bit of time to get used to playing with him. They've not played with a striker like that. Even Aguero wasn't that kind of striker, so it's going to be different for them.
Yeah, he's an out and out proper goal scorer, and make a run, pass me the ball type striker, isn't he? So
I do think of all the players that this will benefit most, I think it will benefit Grealish more, because Grealish is used to playing with a more central focused and centre forward, because he'd be looking to make those runs. Grealish is great at holding the ball, waiting to the last minute and playing those balls through for a centre forward. He did it at Villa. He's done it for England. So I think he will flourish this season with that. So that itself could be a little bit scary for some teams, because if he gets the form that he can show, then the two of them could be brilliant. But we'll see. It might take them a little bit of time, but. So under Wilson, he can continue that form, limit his minutes well, manage him. If you've got that backup striker, I think he will be insanely good this season.
Yeah, do you know what? Fuck Grealish and Haaland. We're going to have Maddison and Wilson. Fuck them too, Mark. We're going to have the best 2 fucking goal scorers and assist makers in the league. Bring it on. But that's us pretty much wrapped up, guys. I think Mark's just got one more thing you wanted to mention about our Evermore Fantasy League. I think if you haven't signed up already, guys, there's probably going to be a link, I think, in the video there. Yeah, go on, Mark, over to you.
It is in the description. We are going to give away a shirt at the end of it for the winner of the league. So if you want to get involved, please, the link, like I say, is in the description. Get involved if you want to join in. Free to play in it. So it's going to cost you absolutely nothing than a little bit of time every week to do your team. You can, I've said previously, you can mock us relentlessly because Chris doesn't play it and is joined in this season. I'm shit at it. Man. So I'm genuinely, I will sit somewhere near the bottom probably. So
I may get beginner's luck. You never know, mate. You never know. I may get beginner's luck, mate. But absolutely fantastic. So yeah, just before we sign off, thanks for the comments, guys. Yeah, great to see you too, Jimmy. Thanks so much, Emma. I really appreciate that. Yeah, we'll be back on Wednesday, guys, as we said. We'll be going through the kind of penultimate episode before the season begins. We're going to have our starting lineups, what we think we should be picked for Saturday, and then obviously we'll discuss about what we think Eddie Howe is going to do. I'm sure there'll be more transfer activity as well. Hopefully, we'll see some movement on that Maddison deal as well, which would be absolutely phenomenal. So, as I mentioned, guys, thank you so much for joining us tonight. All the comments, we love it. Keep it going. It really helps the episodes flow, and it helps the channel grow. If you haven't already, please click the like and subscribe button. We'd love you to come and join us. We've got loads of content before the season starts. It's only around the corner, and then we're going to be back, with the 2 weekly shows as always, and maybe a couple of new ones as well about some match previews and match reviews and player ratings as well. So keep it evermore, guys. Let's keep supporting that team of Wor United. Me and Mark will be back Wednesday with the lads, and we'll catch you then.
Take care, guys.
Cheers now. Bye-bye.